Once in a while we've been talking about difficult people. Has anyone ever met a difficult person? Anyone ever been a difficult person? We've been working our way through a series. And first of all, the first group of people we talked about is needy people. Then we talked about manipulative people. And last week we talked about hypocritical people. It's the importance of knowing how to deal with people in all of the different relationships we have in our life. But the truth is, how many know that all of us can be needy, all of us can be manipulative, and all of us can be hypocrite? Just a helpful hint I put out last week. If someone says, I don't want to go to your church because there's hypocrites there, just say, don't worry, there's always room for one more. Have you ever had to have a tough conversation with someone and you were really nervous about it? You're like, oh, I got to talk to my wife or talk to my husband or I got to talk to a friend, and you were really nervous. For me, it's part of my almost everyday life or every week life, where I've got to talk to someone and maybe the situation is a little hard. Maybe you've had to have a conversation with someone who you knew was going through a hard time, but you didn't know how they were going to respond. You didn't know if they were going to get upset at you. You didn't know if they were going to be okay with you. Sometimes maybe you're having a conversation with someone because you know that they're headed the wrong way. Maybe they've lost their way. To tell you the truth, as a pastor, this is some of the conversations that are the most difficult for me. I want to share this morning a story of a close friend of mine. And over a long period of time, something started to change with him, with us. And I didn't really know what was happening. I was wondering what was happening with my friend. His humor became more sarcastic. It was obvious that he was angry and hurt. I knew that we had to talk, but starting that conversation was hard. Have you ever been there? You knew you had to do it. You knew it was the best thing for them, the best thing for you, the best thing for your relationship. I wanted to help restore the relationship and help restore him to his right place with God. See, I didn't want to be right. I wanted him to be right with God. Just a hint, if you have to talk to someone about something and you go in and your goal is to prove that you're right, I can pretty much guarantee that's not going to go that well. Because no one likes to be wrong. I like to be right even if I am wrong. You see, it wasn't me against him. It was us against whatever was wrong. You see the difference? He was struggling and he was doing some things that were hurtful, but it wasn't me against him. It was us against whatever it was. And that was the goal. The goal was for him to help me and for me to help him. I prayed that God would open a door for this day. Day after day. And if I can give you one bit of advice if you have to confront someone, is timing is everything. How many of you have ever confronted someone about something and you didn't wait for the right time? So I prayed that God would open the door. And one day I was praying for him for this whole situation. And I felt God asked me to contact his wife. And I didn't want to do that. I said, no, I'm not doing that. And God said, yes, you are. And I said, no, I'm not. And we argued back and forth. And then I contacted his wife. And then about 10 minutes later, he contacted me because like any good wife, she told him that I was concerned. And so he contacted me. And he just said, I need to talk. I don't know what's going on. See, God answered my prayer. So the next day, bright and early, I got up and I drove to him. I was so nervous. I know he was nervous too. And I knocked on the door of his house. And I wasn't really sure what was going to happen, when the door opened. But I knocked, and the door opened, and there was this awkward... He said, "Come in." We sat down, and we had some small talk. It was just a few months ago, but as I relive the situation, I can feel that feeling that I had. But I just had to stick to the fact that I wanted to make things right. I didn't want to be right. I asked my friend if he would come today and he would share his story. And I was really nervous to ask. Basically I said, "Hey, you want to come share your story about being difficult?" No. "Hey, why don't you come on in front of like 150 or so people and say, I was difficult and Troy had to come to my house to talk to me." So I asked him, I said, "Listen, there's no pressure. Is this something that you would do?" And without even hesitating, he said yes. And I said, "Really?" Because I totally expected him to say no. So I invite today my very brave friend, Patrick. Saying yes in private was probably felt a lot better than it feels right now for both of us. And I want to be clear. Any of you could be sitting here. I could be sitting there. So I just want to be clear. So what we did is I sent Pat some questions. I said, "Here's the questions." And normally I would just send the questions and say, "Here's the questions," and answer how you would. But I said, "Pat, why don't you send the questions?" Because I know Pat, and I love him a lot. I love him quite a bit. And I didn't want him, because I didn't want him to be too difficult on himself. And so I drove to his house, knocked on the door. We met. It was a little awkward. We had a small talk, and then I said, "Pat, why don't you give it to me?" He did. But in a good way. Because the truth was, he had come to a point where he wanted to be restored. And he wanted to restore. Because the truth is, none of us want to live difficult. I know I don't. So I sent Pat some questions. And so I asked him to actually kind of write them out so that he would be prepared. So we stayed in the right lane, Here's the first question. "Pat, you know that this struggle you went through was built over a long period of time. Why don't you tell us what happened and what made you begin to act the way that you did?"
I don't know when it started exactly, but I started feeling like a failure. I was seeing dark, black. I'm writing books for kids and they're not selling as I thought they would, even though they talk about autism. I'm an artist illustrator, and my art wasn't selling at all. I was surviving with my business. I'm not making any profit or anything like that. And when I was doing worship, I wasn't moving people anymore. I could feel it. I couldn't feel anything anymore. It seems like I was struggling to get an approval from anyone, saying good job or something like that. As a kid, I never had the praise from my parents at anything. my dad, it was really hard for him to say, "Good job, son." Never actually happened to me. So to me to get approval was really important, and yeah, so it just basically started going downhill from there. I felt like I was becoming a piece of furniture in the church. I've been coming here for 9 years, and it was the first time I felt like that. I wasn't reading the Word at all. I wasn't in the Bible at all anymore. I was getting angry at you, at the church, at the staff, at anyone involved in it. I was jealous of Denny because people were praising him on Facebook. What a great worship leader he is. Oh my gosh. And I was like, man, I was there before him. And I was like, no, it's not funny. It's not about him. But that's basically what I was feeling. I was jealous of people in Bouctouche because they can hang out anytime. And where we're living in Moncton, it's so hard for us to actually have a couple to hang out with or something like that. I see all your Facebook posts like, oh, we're having a game Friday or we're having lunch together and stuff. And we're like in Moncton doing nothing. And we have a son that's different. And that also is something that people have maybe difficulty to deal with. So, all that anger and jealousy was building up in me and made me very sarcastic, like very unpleasant to people and very cold in my answers. Yeah, so I was really, really bad. Like, yeah.
Has this negativity been something that you struggle with for a long time?
It was building up, but to be honest, I didn't know when it started. But bad thing is that it started to affect my wife and son. They started feeling the things that I was feeling, which is not right. Like, we don't have to go Bible study. Like, it's too far. We don't have to get involved. We don't have to clean up Bouctouche. It's not our town. Like, like stuff like that. And they were following in my ideas. Like, you're right. We should go back to Moncton and just let Bouctouche deal with Bouctouche. And I was like, that's not right. I think about that now. It's not right. But that's what I was feeling back then.
So for you, negativity and this anger and frustration started to cause problems. You said it started problems with your family, etc. What kind of things did you do, and what kind of problems did it cause?
Like I said, I was cold to a lot of people, even me. I was mean, just to people know that. I was mean to Jackie and Salas. Like, that's just how angry I was. They did not deserve it. I was angry at you. I was not nice to Penny, Natasha, Mariah, like the whole staff of the church. I was really not happy with them. I was mean with the greeters, not smiling at all. I was, mean with anyone, basically, being sarcastic and stuff. Like, just, in my head, I'm talking to someone and it's, look at you, idiot. Like, seriously, that was what was going on in my head. And that really affected my whole humor and stuff. And I stopped coming to Bible study on Wednesdays, like I said. And I got less involved in the church. People were also like were scared to approach me afterwards because they didn't know what to expect with me anymore. Like, and I mean, that's, you don't know what to expect with me at all times. But back then, in that period of time, you did not expect my reaction to be that negative, and that basically caused people to start to avoid me. That's
How did you feel the day that me and you sat down for a very awkward conversation? How did you feel that day that me and you sat down?
Which question is that? Okay. Okay, I don't think you sent me that question, but anyways, I'll go with that. How do you feel that day? Okay, well, at first I felt really awkward, because I think we sat down and just, maybe 10 minutes just sat down and just looked at each other like, yep, yeah. And then I opened my mouth and just let it all out. Like, and I used words I never thought I used words before. Well, that I used way back then, I never thought I'd use again, but I use those kind of words.
What was the turning point in that conversation? What
Well-
made you think that, okay, everything's gonna be okay?
Well, you let me speak my piece. Like you waited until I was done talking before you actually said something. That to me was really important because it had to get out. It had to become real. It had to be in the light, is what it is, not in the darkness anymore. And when I asked you to be removed from the worship team because I was just going through the motions, there was no sentiment there at all. And you were going to propose a break from worship as well, so that at that point, I knew that it was on my way to my recovery, because I knew that I had now the occasion to make it about God again. Leave that all to Him and not carry the burdens anymore. So that was a turning point. When we basically said, I want to be off the table, you said you should take a break. I knew that was God saying, okay, you need to step back. Yeah, that's it.
And that wasn't fun.
No?
That was not fun. What has been the difference since you brought your feelings into the light, since you made a decision? What has been the difference for you since, that you see?
Well, I'm still working at it, but I come here with a smile now. Although this morning I kind of lost patience with my son, and I apologize, Sam, for that. And now we're okay. But I come in. I try to be, a better person. I try to be smiling all the time, and I'm in the Word now. I participate in a small group, a men's small group. Actually, with Bert, Patrick's over here, and Denis, and Chris, and that group really helped me a lot to deal with that anger. He actually got me reading. Just for me to read is something, not because I don't know how to read, but just reading a book for me is really difficult because when I have a creative mind, my mind runs at 100 kilometers an hour a second. An hour a second, okay, yeah. 100 kilometers a second, fix you, Nathan. But my mind wanders really quickly. So for me to keep reading a book and keep at it, it's really difficult. But I actually am starting to get better at that. And reading the Bible with you guys, it's amazing. Thank you so much for that, guys. So it's my mood has changed, and I put everything in God's hands now. Like I don't, try to make it on my own with my business, and I'll try to make it on my own with the books and stuff like that. And great things are happening, and they're moving, and slowly and surely, things are going for the better.
Pat, not many people would have done what you've done today. You are brave, you are authentic, and in 20 years of ministry, this is the truth, and I wrote this down. I've never seen someone who was being difficult be so open to talk about it. And I've never seen somebody have God change their heart so drastically, so quickly. I'm so proud of you. Here's the thing, if we've all been difficult, if we're open and honest about our difficulties, we need to know that God can do a miracle. You remember last week Pat was sharing at church